Well, start for you is one that it just made its maiden voyage over here this morning. I've been working on this for several years, and just got it finished, and it made it all the way over here without too many parts falling off. So we're going to talk about it a little bit, and you can maybe come back here, gather around if you want. There were in these, and maybe move that speaker so that it points this way a little bit more. There's somebody over there. But anyway, there was a company called SS Samuel Morton. You see on the front of this chassis, SS Morton, York, Pennsylvania. Morton came out in 1897, and they built these frames and these chassis, had gearing, steering, and a friction drive mechanism, which is on this side. And they went to the companies that were building gas engines, and they said, you put your old single-cylinder gas engine on our chassis, and now not only can you sell gas engines, but you can also sell tractors. So a lot of those early gas engine companies, they had a picture of one of these in their catalog. They were not at all successful because it was a friction driving mechanism. And this crankshaft on this side has this fiber pulley. This originally would have been a paper pulley. We're using masonite here. And when we get the engine started, we pull one lever back. And what it does is it slides the engine and this pulley against this great big differential pulley here. And it's friction drive, so it means it slips, and you've got forward motion. Then if you want to go in reverse, you push the engine forward, and then you pull up this reverse idler underneath here, and then it'll go in reverse. One speed forward, one speed backwards. I live about half a mile from here, and it took us 45 minutes going wide open to get here. So I was walking about twice as fast as this was moving. So you can see why people said the gas engine, the gas tractor will never make it. This is the very beginning of the gas tractor. This is I'm calling it the 1903. This engine is 20 horsepower. It's a great engine. Runs good, develops good power, but a tractor like this could have never been used for plowing because of the problem with the slippage. About the only function a tractor like this could perform is you could pull a threshing machine or some other piece of equipment, several wagon loads of grain to town. You could pull a threshing machine to a location, then you could set it up, and then you could put your drive belt on this pulley on this side and belt up, thresh your grain. When you're done, you can tie onto your threshing machine and head back out. So there were a number of companies that offered these, but very few were sold because they just weren't any good, really, as far as what you'd expect out of a tractor. Now I'll explain a few things. On these old single-cylinder engines, there's basically two kinds of governors. There's a hit-and-miss governor, which you'll hear the third tractor down, where it will fire only when it needs to, and then it'll coast. If it's under a load, I'll explain it. It'll fire every time, but if it doesn't need to, it'll just coast. Now, this type of governor on this engine is what we call a steady shooter or a throttling governor, which means it fires every time. And there's quite a difference. You have a water jacket in front. When the engine runs, it runs this little flat belt on this side, which operates this little brass water pump. This is a water tank up here in front, full of water, and it pumps that water through the water jacket over the top, and these two pipes at the top have holes drilled in them, and after it runs a little bit, that water will run down this burlap and back into the tank. And that's your radiator. That's how that's cooled. And probably if you were in the field working and it was dirty, dusty, you'd probably have to scoop the mud out of that tank every day. That's probably just part of normal operation. Oiling, these beautiful glass things that are on top of the engine, put the levers up on those. Those 3 back here, 2 on the side will drip oil down on the main bearings of the engine, and this center one will drip oil down on this little piece of cloth, and the connecting rod comes across there and wipes that oil off there and oils the connecting rod. This big one up here on this end of the cylinder, that drips oil down onto your piston, so you have oil for your piston and your wrist pin. The ignition on this engine uses a coil and a battery, and it's just got an insulated electrode that goes in through the cylinder head up there in front, goes into the combustion chamber, and there's a little wiper that comes around. If you walk back there when it's running, you'll see something going round and round. That wipes there, and every time that wipes like that, it'll make a spark inside the cylinder. So it doesn't use a spark plug, but it's what we call an igniter. It's something before a spark plug. This is a very primitive tractor, very primitive engine, but it's kind of fun to see it work. So why don't some of you guys